A film, Carnival of Souls, directed by Herc Harvey from 1962 and starring Candice Hilligloss with a very memorable and moody score by Gene Moore on the organ. So, I have vivid memories of this from my childhood. This film always made me feel scared and claustrophobic. And nowadays at 65, I'm less scared, but I'm still claustrophobic by it. There's something about it that makes you feel isolated. Good filmmaking. Guy's only film, really. Herc Harvey, who directed it and stars as the man that Candice Hilligloss's character keeps seeing. So this starts out, they're in Kansas City, and Mary Henry, the character, is out joyriding with a bunch of people, and they're like racing illegally. They're illegally racing on the streets of Kansas City, and they come across this bridge, and the car goes off the bridge, and they're dragging it out of the river, and we see Mary Henry surface, and she leaves town to go to Salt Lake City, and there she has a job waiting for her as a church organist. And as the film moves along, she takes a room in a kind of Fleabag place with a really creepy little guy that keeps hitting on her named John. Uh, and a nosy landlady, and just I mean, there's some cheese in it. You know, it's a. They said the film was made for $33,000. Okay, and I was reading an interesting thing about it. The bridge where the car goes off. The town asked them. They said they weren't going to charge them to film there, but could you repair the bridge? And they said that it cost $12 to repair the bridge. So, hey, so as she's going through her life and adjusting to this new town and fascinated by this rundown old carnival property, like right by the sea, kind of like I don't know if it's quite like a Coney Island kind of thing, very low rent, abandoned carnival thing that she has seen. And she hears the story of what it used to be. It used to be a bathhouse at one point, and then it was a carnival, and it's so she keeps having these kind of visions of the man who's in it, and other people, and they all look pale faces, raccoon black eyes. And I should mention that this is in black and white, by the way, in glorious black and white. And she has these bouts where she can hear nothing. All the sound is gone. You see like birds and things like that, and there's nothing. She hears nothing, and at some point she sees this man who's grinning at her and kind of beckoning her, and it gets more and more aggressive as the film goes on. And at one point where she's practicing the organ in the church, she's sort of in a trance, and she's transformed to in her mind to that carnival, and there are all these dead people, and the man is underwater, just under the surface of the water, and he opens his eyes. It's a very frightening moment, and everyone's dancing, and she sees a dead version of herself, and the chords on the organ are getting really weird and eerie and just wrong. And so the pastor there at this church uh, lets her go because he said that was sacrilege what he was hearing, but he urges her to not give up and to kind of find help and you know such things. And so as we go on, things are building in her life, and she's trying to run away from all of this. At one point, she even runs to a creepy neighbor and says, "Let's go out." She doesn't want to be alone, so they go to a bar with some cheap music playing and all of that, and she's ignoring him. She's in another space. Candice Hillegloss is great at looking weird. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. This is a very eerie film that takes you outside of reality. It very successfully does that. It's very it's almost artsy in its way, and I know that Herc Harvey mentioned that he part of the thing he wanted it to be somewhere influences from Bergman and from um, Jean Cocteau, very interesting, who did the only version you ever want to see of Beauty and the Beast, which I'll talk about sometime. So the film builds and builds, and you feel more and more isolated along her path, and things just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and it has an ending I won't tell you. But the film is really effective at pulling you in and isolating you and taking you out of your reality and into its reality. And I think the very fact that there's no big known actors in this helps. It seems like you're intruding on life in the early 60s. As I said, this is a 1962 film, and it looks every inch of that. And it has a sort of squalor and seediness to it. It looks cheap. I don't mean cheap in terms of budgetary, because I have to say that Herc Harvey, the director who also is the co-writer with a guy named, is it John Clifford? I forget. His last name is Clifford. Um, he really makes the best use of his camera work, and I guess he did a lot of like industrial films, educational films, stuff like that. That was his background, I believe. And so he learned how to work and get the most out of his limits. And it's a beautifully filmed film. It's there's wonderful scenes all through it as you follow it. You truly are in the character Mary Henry's world. And you're wondering what's wrong. Something seems off pretty much from the word go. What's going on? So, this is Carnival of Souls. I will say this. Is it my favorite horror film? Perhaps. But it's way up there. It's an excellent film that started in the late 80s. It started getting some level of acclaim. It's become a favorite. There was a really bad remake inspired by it. Don't ever watch that. It's like 1998. Not worth your time, not worth your dime. Stick with this. Unless you hate horror films, which why are you watching this? And thank you. And probably to look and see my old Scottish hat from the 90s. Um, but it is a unique film. It's a piece of art. It's a piece of horror. Uh, give it a chance if you've not seen it. If you have seen it, you know everything that I'm talking about. So that's what we got for you this week. Carnival of Souls from 1962, directed by Herc Harvey and starring Candice Hillegloss. Bye bye. Love you.